how to turn challenges into opportunities.
So if we go back to saying why this business, what makes it different? Well, it rejects the premise that growth is only found in your strengths. We get taught very early on, don't we, not to talk about certain things and to avoid certain topics. And that's led to a lot of fear in workplaces. I only talk about what you're good at. We only talk about what's successful, right? We don't delve in and talk about, hey, when did it go belly up? When did we make mistakes? What are we? Where are our knowledge and skill gaps? We've all got them, right? So I wanted to destigmatize that and have continually been on a mission around that. That's the drive to say, hang on, our workplaces are not healthy. They're not well. So how do we make them well? We make them well by taking out the fear.
Ooh.
For me, it's saying, hang on, when you can think differently about gaps and threats and risk, and you don't fear that, and you know how to turn it into something useful, there's so much liberty in that. There's so much freedom in that, Jan. You're not hamstrung to it, right? You're not fearful. You're not thinking, God, I'm going to get caught out, right? It's just a normal part of work. And that is really why I created the business, and that is why I continue to get up and do the work and dust myself off and keep going again and again to actually reject that premise that, strengths are where the growth is. No, strengths are important, but they're only a very small part, right? If you want to reduce vulnerability in life and business, you have to start having discussions around mistakes, gaps, threats, and risk.
Give us a glimpse of your process.
First thing I do is give myself a couple of days grace.
Ooh.
So I do nothing because I have to process it. I have to process it, and not even just process, just sit with what's happened. So I don't, I'll never go bang, bang. So from that moment that decision was made, then straight into something else again. It's like, no, hang on, wait a minute. What just happened there? And so for me, it's a commitment that I make to myself, and it may be 1 or 2 days, but it's a grace period. And I actually make an agreement with myself that when that period is up, that is when I start again. But I just find it's important for me mentally to have that gap between the past and what's happened and being able to move forward.
What do you do?
What do I do in that time?
Yeah.
Probably sit on the couch and watch movies, probably make a cake.
Oh, like totally different, right?
Totally different.
Wow.
Totally nothing work related. Nothing work related at all. No, God, no. No, I give myself some grace and I give myself some breathing room. I know in myself that when I'm facing a big challenge, you can't keep putting square pegs in round holes. You can't keep trying to force it, right? It's just stop. And I'm a very driven individual, but you need to just stop for a minute. I just will do something completely indulgent and completely non-related. And then, as I said, I've got an actual time frame in my head, and I'm very disciplined with it. And when that time is up, I then start to move into the second phase, which is the self-reflective phase. I know how easy it is when you're faced with those situations to get into a hole, right? To get into a dark place, to get in like, I'm crap, there's nothing good, or, whatever the case may be, or the business is hopeless, and it's not, right? So these are questions that I really ask myself. The first one is, what didn't go to plan and why? So what went wrong here? Why did this happen? Right? Like, it's almost like a post-mortem in a way. It's quite a critical, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but a critical post-mortem of the circumstance. So what didn't go to plan and why? And the next question I ask myself is, which is really quite empowering, well, what did I learn? What did I learn from this experience, right? Like, so often we miss this piece, yeah, and we jump to the next bit, but this is critical. What did I learn that I didn't know before? And it might be about the business, it might be about me, it might be how I show up in the world. And then the third part that comes off of that is, well, how am I going to use these questions and these lessons to benefit myself and other people? So I've made my business and mission taking crap and turning it into something valuable. That is the superpower of myself, right? And of the business, right? That's what it is. It's about how do we take those challenges and turn them into something useful. And once you've got that, you've got it forever, Jan, right? No one can come away and take it out of your head. You have it. You understand it at a deeper level. And so the next question I ask, there's 5, number 4 is, would there be anything that I would do different now that I know, right? Because sometimes it's easy, even when it's bad and it's really disruptive, to sometimes point fingers or sometimes not own your piece too in it. And I think that's important, that we do say, what would I do different? Because then it starts to remove any victim or finger pointing or whatever. You can own, and I think that's important, right? I think even we have to own it and say, well, hang on, I did make the decision that I wasn't going to do that, or I did do that, or whatever. And I own my part as well. And so I think that's not making you the victim. That's empowering you to say, yeah, okay, I would do that different next time. I wouldn't go down that path. And then the other one is, what can I influence and what can I not? So what can I do right now, right? Like, so those questions have been just life-changing for me. And every time I've gone through and faced it and faced that challenge and that adversity, I always come back to them and they always settle. So I've had the hiatus where I do whatever the hell I want to do and it's not work-related. I come then now, I'm in that mental space that, okay, now game on. Self-reflection, pulling it apart, right, using some smart questions. And then I focus on one action. So the next stage is one action, right? Like you have to get the first action done. You know that when you feel in yourself, you feel overwhelmed, right? And the worst thing is doing nothing, right? So it's that, that absolute paralysis of not moving at all. So I'll choose one thing. It could be really simple. It might be picking up the phone and calling someone. It could be sending an email. It might be doing some research on something. But that piece of just take that first action. And when you get that first step, then you start to see it can lead on. Yeah. But I always make sure, particularly when you've come out of something can be traumatic at times too, right? Let's not lie. I've had experiences where I would say they are quite traumatic. And I think for me, it's being kind to myself and it's making sure that when I start to have a plan, I'm not overly ambitious. So I'll always work on a goal, but I'll only have maybe one or maybe even 2 or 3 actions around it, right? I'm not going to be doing a whole plan. I'm just going to start small. And off of those actions, I then think about, well, where are my knowledge and skill gaps against that? If there are some, how do I fulfill them?